The New York Rangers do not have a lack of leadership. They have a complete and total absence of leadership. We explain why on today's episode.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1285 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So figured we can go ahead, do another live episode here as this miserable season begins to wind down. Only 5 games left after tonight, and thank God for that. But you look at this game, the Rangers come out and they lose 5-1 at home against Tampa Bay, and it's pretty much just par for the course. I mean, is anybody surprised by the outcome tonight? Did anybody expect the Rangers to finally, at this point in the season, start putting in an honest effort against a team that, obviously is a lot better coach and just a lot better in just about every aspect than the New York Rangers? I certainly didn't. It's gotten to the point where it is absolutely borderline impossible to have any good feelings going into any Ranger game at this point, regardless of what the situation is, who the opponents are, whether the Rangers are home or away. It doesn't matter. They're not going to play well. They're not going to execute, and they're not going to win. And more often than not, effort is going to be an issue, as it was in this game. Now, the Rangers in the second and third period, they did pick it up a little bit. The second period in particular, they ended up with 19 shots on net. But you know what? Who cares? At this point, who could possibly even care about that? I'm not going to, after watching everything that we've all seen from the Rangers this year throughout the entire season, I'm not going to start giving out points just for trying a little bit in the second period and the third period. So bottom line, it didn't matter anyway, because this game was lost pretty much in the first period. I mean, they gave up 3 goals in the span of less than 2 minutes. And as we all know, or as I think a lot of people are certainly aware, this Ranger team has not rallied out of a multi-goal deficit to win a game this entire season. They are the only team in the AHL that has failed to accomplish that feat. Think of another bad team in hockey other than the Rangers, and that team has accomplished that. The Sharks have accomplished that. The Blackhawks have accomplished that. The Bruins have accomplished that. The Sabres have accomplished that. The Flyers, the Penguins, the list goes on and on. Every bad team in hockey has accomplished that feat, except for the New York Rangers. And they certainly weren't going to start in a game like this. But to kind of break down this entire first period here, there was kind of a strange start. I think the game went about 8 minutes before there was even a play stoppage of any kind. And I will say, I think the fourth line had some good shifts for the Rangers early in this game. Othman, Brodzinski, and Rempe, they were creating some chances in the first half of the first period. You had Rempe, at least he's out there mixing it up with some Tampa Bay players during a play stoppage, showing a pulse, which is more than I can say for a lot of players on this New York Ranger team. And while I'm on the subject of Othman playing on the fourth line, I should also mention that both Othman and Perreault were taken out of the top 6 for this game and put into the bottom 6. We'll have more thoughts on that a little bit later in today's episode. It's bad enough that Laviolette won't make any changes to the power play, but he's now rewarding the veteran players who are more responsible than anybody that the Rangers are in this situation, while punishing the younger players. And he did have a reason for it. To me, it's not good enough. But like I said, we'll get to that a little bit later in today's episode. But really, we were off to a bad start even before the puck dropped, as far as I was concerned. So you got these 3 goals that the Rangers give up. And again, this has been a problem all season. Why should it get any better now? The Rangers give up a goal, and then it snowballs. They are terrible in the shift that follows a goal. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit. To break down this first goal, you've got the Rangers on the power play, which, I know they scored a power play goal in this one, but let's be honest. The power play has been nothing short of an abomination for most of the season, and certainly in recent history, to be sure. But they're on the power play. The power play ends with Hagel putting a shot off the post for Tampa Bay. So they were that close to giving up another shorthanded goal. And while this is happening, or I guess just before this happened, Chris Kreider takes a penalty for hooking. So that is just a fantastic use of the man advantage. And just like that, the Rangers are shorthanded. Then you've got a situation where the Rangers get an odd man break while shorthanded. Fox kind of stops in the left circle there, tries to backhand a pass across the crease there, gives it away Tampa rushes up the ice in the other direction. A couple of passes later, a little give and go action. And, Tampa Bay scores. And just like that, they're up 1-0. Schneider and Cooley weren't able to do anything to break up this rush. We get Adam Fox. He gave the puck away in the offensive zone. He's hanging his head after the play. Adam Fox still leads the NHL, and he improved his stats in this area tonight. Still leads the NHL in terrible body language that was on full display here. So that's the first goal. And again, stop me if you've heard this before. The Rangers have a terrible shift in the shift that follows a goal. We saw that here again. Tampa Bay ends up scoring a second goal just 36 seconds after this one. We've got the puck in the Ranger zone. Carson Soucy is basically falling all over himself in the corner, which is honestly par for the course as far as how Soucy has played ever since he's come over in this trade. He didn't even really have an opponent near him, and he's just like stumbling and coughing up the puck, and all of a sudden, he just loses control of the puck. And by this point, Tampa starts to pressure him a little bit. They bring the puck right to the front of the Ranger net, do the Lightning. There's no resistance. There's never any resistance when it comes to players getting to the front of the Ranger net, whether it's driving there or just setting up shop there. Anybody can do whatever they want right in front of the net, right in the Ranger goal crease there. So there's no resistance. You get a shot that goes wide. Trocheck tries to clear the puck. It gets knocked down at the blue line. And then you've got a shot that hits Soucy in the skate, and it's just laying there. And that's when Gord picks it up and slides it home from the doorstep, gives Tampa Bay a 2-0 lead. And then another, again, stop me if you've heard this before, another bad shift in the shift that follows the goal. Literally like less than 2 seconds into the next play, Sam Carrick is cross-checking his guy at the red line. I can understand he's trying to wake his team up a little bit, but Sam Carrick, I think overall he's done a nice job as the fourth line center this year. This is a terrible penalty. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And, it's right at the face-off. He's cross-checking his guy, and he goes back to the box as well. Tampa Bay is on the power play, and these 4 Ranger penalty killers here looked about as bad as a quartet of penalty killers can possibly look. It was Adam Fox, Braden Schneider, Vincent Trocheck, and JT Miller. Just an absolutely miserable effort here. You've got Fox flopping around the ice because that's the only thing Ranger defensemen can do this season to defend, period, is they just go sliding across the ice on their stomach. We saw that here from Adam Fox. And then you've got Braden Point basically stuffing in the puck from the side of the net there. And you talk about just zero resistance. I mean, Braden Schneider is right there. Vincent Trocheck is right there. And the two of them, are they battling for the puck? Are they taking the body? Are they trying to tie up his stick or something? Or are they trying to clear the puck out of there? They're not really trying to do any of these things. The two of them basically just kind of leaned on Point. And then Point just, after a couple of whacks, was able to stuff the puck in. Get him out of there. You're right there. Braden Point isn't the biggest guy in the world. I mean, Trocheck's not either, but Schneider's big. And you would think that two of them combined could move this guy out of there. Nope. They just let him stand there, do whatever he wants. And all 4 of these penalty killers, this was a disgraceful effort. They were watching Igor Shesterkin make saves until finally Igor couldn't make a save. And, there you go. Got to give a shout out to Broadway Block. They do a great job with their podcast. I saw a tweet after this goal that they sent out. I don't have the exact tweet in front of me, but they basically said something like, no one could blame Igor if he skated off the ice and left the building right now. And I wholeheartedly agree. Not that he's had a great season either, but my God, I mean, you talk about just being hung out to dry. It's happened a lot this year. Certainly happened here. And then to cap off this awesome first period that the Rangers played here, you've got Alexis Lafreniere getting hit with a 10-minute misconduct toward the end of the first period. There was like 2:30 to go, give or take. So it was weird. There was a bad icing call, or what I thought was a bad icing call, because there's no way that this Tampa Bay player couldn't have gotten to the puck. He basically stopped moving his legs. Puck went beyond the goal line, and then they called an icing on the Rangers. And then Lafreniere mouthed off to the referee and not the linesman. Obviously, the linesmen are the ones in charge of calling icing. So at first, I thought that Lafreniere was arguing the icing, but then I thought, well, that's weird. He's talking to the referee instead of the linesman about it, right? So almost immediately after Lafreniere says something to the referee, Chris Rooney, Rooney makes the signal, and Lafreniere is hit with the 10-minute game misconduct. And we're all kind of wondering, like, what's going on here? What's this all about? So John Giannone was right on top of it. He's right there between the benches. And all that Lafreniere did here, per John Giannone, is basically just say something to Rooney. And apparently, per John Giannone, this situation had been building because earlier in the game, Alexis Lafreniere was on the bench and said something to the referee. And then Rooney responded to Lafreniere by saying, "You don't have to be a blankety blank." Now, obviously, John Giannone he cannot fill in the blanks there. Neither can I. I don't even know what they were, but you get the idea. Rooney is basically cursing out Lafreniere. So this is absolute garbage by Rooney here. No referee should be able to say something to a player that would result in a penalty for the player. And if Rooney's going to do this, if he's going to curse out Lafreniere like this on the bench and dish it out like this, then he needs to be able to take it too. And for him to hit Lafreniere with a 10-game misconduct when Lafreniere is basically just skating by him and saying something to him, it's not like Lafreniere was going ballistic. It's not like he was in his face or threatening him or anything like that. He just said something as he was skating by. So Rooney thinks he's allowed to curse out a player, but Lafreniere is not allowed to say something to Rooney about him missing a call or whatever that issue was at that point. Absolute garbage by this official. And I know some people are going to be mad at Lafreniere for doing this and putting the team in a bad spot. Does it matter? They were down 3-0. You knew they weren't coming back. I mean, I know we all try to be positive as much as we can, but you've watched this team this season. You've seen what they're all about. They're not going to dig their way out of this 3-goal hole. So I can at least appreciate the fact that somebody on this Ranger team showed a pulse here, said something to the referee. And like I said, I thought this was utter garbage by Rooney on this play. And then to cap off a great first period, the Rangers were booed off the ice. Good. They deserve it. I'm not usually all about that, but at this point, who could possibly blame the fans for this? I don't know if you guys realize this. Most of you probably do. It ain't cheap to go to these Ranger games. And you go to a Ranger game and you're treated to this kind of nonsense. It's just unacceptable. And by all means, the fans deserve to have their voice heard at the end of a game like this. And they made sure that their voice was heard at the end of the first period and then certainly at the end of the game as well. Going to keep everything rolling just a second. Peter Laviolette made some shocking post-game comments. Even by 2024-2025 New York Rangers standards, these were shocking. Going to get into that and talk about what that was in just a second here. Also, call out the Rangers for their complete and utter lack of leadership. Going to do all that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It is the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether you're snacking at your desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always a great go-to. The satisfying crunch of opening each shell, it is like snack meditation. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works just as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, we're going to go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Again, as always, massive shout out to the everydayers for enduring this misery game in and game out, night in and night out, sometimes day in and day out. 5 games left. Hang in there, guys. We're almost there, and we can turn our attention to the offseason, just forgetting about this season that's about to conclude here, figuring out how the Rangers can fix these things. We're going to have a lot more fun, I think, in the offseason than we are having down the stretch here. That is for sure. But I do appreciate everybody sticking with this podcast through the few ups and the many downs of this season. But I also wanted to continue here by kind of shifting our attention a little bit to just the culture in general of this team. I had a thought after the first period here, and I think it's something that I brought up earlier this season. Pretty sure I talked about this very briefly, but it had to be at least 50 episodes ago, so I'll bring it up again here. And we're also going to talk about Peter Laviolette's just stunning post-game comments as well. What do you guys think is happening in the Ranger locker room between periods? Like specifically between the first and second period in this game here tonight, where they get off to a decent start. They were out shooting them 7-1 at one point. And then they just have a complete meltdown in every sense of the word. And you blink and they're down 3-0. And that's pretty much the game at that point. Like I said, there was no reason to believe they would even come close to rallying out of a 3-goal hole because they haven't done it all season. They're not going to start now. But what do you guys think is going on in there? Like, does anybody say anything? Do these guys talk to each other? Do they look to each other? Which player on this team is going to stand up and address everybody after a period like that and slam some sticks around, throw some things around, chew everybody out, get in everybody's face, and let them know that this is unacceptable, that this is BS? I don't know that the Rangers have that player. It's very difficult to picture any of the 4 alternate captains doing that. And I could be wrong because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but you guys see the way these guys carry themselves. We've been watching it for, 76 games now? Do you really think like Chris Kreider is going to stand up and rally the troops? Mika Zibanejad, Adam Fox, even Artemi Panarin? Do we really think that's coming from one of these guys? Vincent Trocheck, it looked like for a while, was becoming one of the leaders of this team, but he just looks miserable recently. His play has just been terrible, and just the way he's carrying himself, I don't look at him and see somebody that's carrying himself like a captain right now. You could think maybe JT Miller. You know, we thought that he was going to be one of the guys that kind of sparks his team a little bit and hopefully changes the culture, and that could still happen, you know, with him next season, starting his first full season as a member of the Rangers. But I don't know, man. He looks just as sad and depressed as everybody else on this team. You know, like, I don't know if this is the worst Ranger team that we've ever seen. In fact, I know that it's, deep down, I know that it's not. Because in spite of everything that's happened, the Rangers have had seasons, record-wise, that were a lot worse than this. But this might be the saddest, most depressing Ranger team that we've ever seen. These guys just look miserable. And I understand that losing isn't any fun. But, I don't know. I mean, they just, you know, the proof is in the pudding. Because look at the goal that was scored by the Rangers in this game. There was only one goal. And shockingly, it actually did occur on the power play. But it was basically a fluky goal. That's probably the only way the Rangers are going to score on the power play. But it deflects off of Mika's skate, goes into the net. And this happens in the second period, fairly early. 3-0 deficit is now 3-1. So you've got something, right? I mean, it's a start. You got to start somewhere. These 5 guys on the ice here, and keep in mind, these are the veteran leaders. A lot of these guys are the guys that wear the A's. It's the same 5 guys on the power play that we've seen all season. They looked about as unenthusiastic as I've ever seen any team look after scoring a goal. And again, I realize they're still down. I realize they've been playing poorly lately, and nobody likes to lose, not even these guys. But my God, nobody said anything to anybody. It was like the bare basic minimum of a goal celebration that you will ever see. These 5 guys skate together. There's like no eye contact. There's some half-hearted fist bumping. That's about it. Nobody says anything. Everybody looks miserable. There's no fire. There's no like fist pump or anything after the goal goes in. It looked like they were in physical pain having to go over and talk to each other and congratulate each other and then skate to the bench for, you know, the fist bump down the line there on the bench. Heck of an example these guys are setting here. You know, I wonder a lot now, like, if this is what we get on the ice in full view of everybody, and this is just one example that I'm using here. Think about the overtime game winner against Minnesota not too long ago. Big win in theory. Second win in a row, I believe it was. And you got to win games. I mean, it's over at this point. It's been over for a while, but we're pretty much putting the nail in the coffin as far as playoffs are concerned. But you get that big, you know, important win against Minnesota, dramatic win in overtime. And there was a little celebration after that happened. But these guys, I mean, like, considering the situation that they're in and the fact that they won a game in overtime, it was a very, very subdued celebration there. And this celebration in this game here tonight, you can't even call it a celebration. They looked like they were going to a funeral. So if these guys don't talk to each other on the ice, if there's no evidence that these guys are holding each other accountable, pumping each other up on the ice, you know, having each other's backs and, you know, making sure that everybody's ready to go. If we don't see that on the ice, even when good things are happening, like an overtime winner, or in this case tonight, a power play winner, then why do we think that anything is any different behind the scenes? Why do we think that like any of these veterans behind the scenes are, you know, talking to these guys, addressing them after a bad period? There's no way that's happening. There's no way. Who on this team is going to do that? We just ruled out the 4 alternate captains. We pretty much ruled out Vincent Trocheck, JT Miller. I mean, again, we don't know for 100% fact, but that's what I can assume watching these guys interact with each other when we can see them, when they are on the ice, do you think, like, I mean, Will Cooley, he's 22 years old. I mean, it'd be a bold move, but is Will Cooley going to stand up and like start throwing things around and calling out all these veterans? I'd love to see it. I would love for him to do that, but it's a tough situation to be in when you're a young player. And I just hope the guys that are really new to this team, Gabe Perreault, Brian Hoffman, Brett Berard, among others, I hope that none of these guys are internalizing anything that they're seeing right now, especially Gabe Perreault, because he just got here. He's only played 3 games, and he has gotten the full New York Ranger experience. These players just look absolutely miserable. They don't have the slightest amount of pride in their work. They don't take the slightest amount of joy in playing hockey. So I hope Gabe Perreault can basically just hit the reset button after this season ends, and hopefully he can come back strong next year. And that goes for all the young players as well. There's something else that I have to mention here, though. I've been building up to the Peter Laviolette, comments that he made, and we're going to get to that. But I actually first want to make a comparison between John Cooper for the Lightning, Peter Laviolette for the Rangers. Apparently, and I didn't happen to see this. I don't know if they played this on the MSG broadcast, but apparently during one of the TV timeouts early in this game, when Tampa was just kind of going through the motions, being outshot 7-1, 8-1, whatever it was, apparently during one of those TV timeouts, John Cooper absolutely laid into his team, just read them the riot act. And what happens right after that? Tampa Bay goes on a 3-goal rampage. They score 3 times in less than 2 minutes, make it 3-0, and they're very well on their way to a win. Do you think you're going to see something like that from Peter Laviolette right now? What are the odds of that? When's the last time we've seen anything like that with Laviolette? When is the last time we've seen Peter Laviolette talk to one of his players during a game? I'm not going to say it never happens, because it's not like the camera is on Laviolette, 24/7 the entire game. So maybe he's talking to his players every once in a while, but we don't see it. When's the last time we've seen him get wasn't he like this fiery, intense coach that was going to come in here and kick butt and take names? We don't see any of that. He's just there. He's not doing anything. He doesn't talk to anybody. And he's certainly not going to deliver the kind of address that we saw John Cooper give to his guys in this game. And again, a lot of this comes down to the fact that Peter Laviolette probably knows that he's a dead man walking, but be that as it may, this has been going on for a while. And you can say what you will about how bad the Rangers have been this season, and we've said plenty of that. As recently as 2 weeks ago, the playoffs were still a very real possibility. So you would think that around that time, Laviolette would step it up a little bit, try to ramp up the intensity at least a little, and you just don't really see any of that. So there's that comparison. But what Peter Laviolette said after the game, I think, is what blew my mind, and probably the minds of a lot of you as well. After this game, Peter Laviolette was asked, I believe it was by Vince Bercogliano, but the question was asked if he has a message for the team at this stage of the season. Obviously, there's only 5 games left, and the Rangers are pretty much done. So this is what Laviolette said. Nothing can prepare you for this. Make sure you're sitting down. He said, I don't have a message right now. I don't go into the locker room after the game. Is he trying to get fired? See, I didn't think that at first, but you hear something like this, and it becomes like a legitimate question. He doesn't go into the locker room after the game. Again, to bring it back to the comparison of Tampa's coach, John Cooper, he's laying into his players during a TV timeout. Peter Laviolette doesn't even talk to his team after the game? How long has this been going on? Is this a thing with him? I can't imagine that last season he wasn't talking to them after the games. I mean, they were very good last season. Best record in the NHL. And I would think win or lose last year, he was in there talking to them. Now he just doesn't go in there? Do the other coaches go in there? Do they just disappear after the game is over? What happens? I need somebody to walk me through the process of what's going on in the Ranger locker room after a game. It's just fascinating right now. And one more thing that I'll mention about Laviolette here while we're talking about him. He was asked why he dropped Perreault and Hoffman into the bottom 6. This is what he had to say. Some of that had to do with the opponent tonight and their top line, just making sure we had the pieces out there that we thought could handle that line. Yeah, because those Ranger veterans, they've been handling everything so well this season, right? How'd that work out? How did it work out slowing down Tampa Bay's, top players? How did it work out slowing down their power play? How did it work out keeping them, off the board, or at least limiting them a little bit? They end up with 5 goals. And yeah, one was an empty netter, but who cares? They ended up with 5 goals. And the Rangers outshot Tampa by a great deal in this game. But again, who cares? We're not giving out points for trying at this stage in the season. In just a second, we're going to shift our attention to an award that was given out in this game to Jonathan Quick. I think he was the rightful winner of this award, the Rod Gilbert Mr. Ranger Award. I'm going to talk about that, where we give props to Jonathan Quick for winning the award, but we're also going to shine a light on just how bad this really is for the Rangers. The fact that this award is going to the backup goalie. It's a leadership award, and it goes to a guy that doesn't usually play. I'm going to talk about that in just a second.
Did you know getting a good night's sleep is the #1 recipe for long-term success in life? I didn't. It took me way longer to realize than I'd like to admit. It was years of tossing and turning. I was always tired. I never felt like I could live up to my potential, but not anymore. Thanks to Bear Mattress. I used their sleep quiz and I matched with the Elite Hybrid. It's perfect for side sleepers like me. Now I wake up energized. I'm getting deeper sleeps and I'm ready to attack the day. No matter how you sleep, Bear Mattress has a match for you with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout for 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode by talking a little bit about the Rod Gilbert Mr. Ranger Award. And it was given to Jonathan Quick in a pregame ceremony. They really did a nice job with that. The highlight of the night for the Rangers. But to kind of understand what this award is and what it's made to represent, I'm going to read it right from the web page on the Rangers website. This is what it says as far as what the award is and what it's made to represent. The annual Mr. Ranger Award was created in the 2021-2022 season in honor of Rod Gilbert. This award recognizes the Rangers player who best honors Rod's legacy by exemplifying leadership qualities both on and off the ice and making a significant humanitarian contribution to his community. Now, the second part of that I can't really comment on because I do know a lot of these players on the Rangers are very charitable and they do some good work, with Garden Dreams Foundation and whatnot, and that's great. But as far as leadership qualities on and off the ice as it pertains to hockey, who can you possibly give this award to? Jonathan Quick. He's the one guy. He probably is the best recipient of this award this year. Again, they did a nice job with the ceremony. We lost Rod, sadly, a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, about at the age of 80. And this award has been created in his honor ever since. It's only the fourth time that they're giving it out. But his wife, Judy Gilbert, she's on the ice rather, to present this award. She was out there with Adam Graves. Graves is the man. Would love to have a player with half the guts of Adam Graves and half the skill of Adam Graves apparently on this roster. Just the total package kind of player that Adam Graves was. But they're there. They give the award to Jonathan Quick. And like I said just a second ago, I think it says a lot about the state of this team and the effectiveness of the leadership committee, if you can even call them that, when this award is going to the backup goalie. And it's nothing against Jonathan Quick, absolute legend, 3-time Cup champion, one of the best goalies to ever lace him up, slam dunk Hall of Famer, and very, very cool that he won this award. But just the fact that there are so precious few options. We talk about the extra effort award in the build up to that and how there aren't a lot of options for that. There's even fewer for this one, because if you don't give it to Jonathan Quick, who do you give it to? I don't think any of the 4 alternate captains are even in the running. Mika and Kreider, forget it. Adam Fox, no. Panarin, maybe Panarin, just because there are times this season, even now, even down the stretch through this awful run of hockey that the Rangers have played here, where you do see Panarin throw the team on his back offensively and really make some big-time contributions and step up that way. So I guess he could maybe be considered a candidate, but, who else is there really? Honestly, I think after Quick, my second pick might have been Johnny Brodzinski, because he stepped up, leading the way for some of these young guys. He's taking Gabe Perreault under his wing, doing the things that the guys that wear letters are supposed to do and apparently just don't do, or at least don't do it all that frequently. I had a funny thought watching this, though. As the whole thing is like developing here and we're wondering who's going to win the award, I'm watching it. And okay, Rainier that exemplifies the best leadership qualities out of the entire bunch. I had to think to myself, how funny would it be if it ended up being Mika Zibanejad or Chris Kreider? Like, it's one of those things where I don't think that they would have been cheered. I don't think they would have been booed. I think the Garden crowd would have just been utterly confused, as we all would have been too, as would have been Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider themselves if one of them won this award. Because there's just been no leadership from the supposed leadership group this season. I just can't even imagine what that reaction would have been like. Jonathan Quick got a nice reaction, and I think rightfully so. We heard some stories last year when things were obviously a lot better and the Rangers were gearing up for the playoffs around this time and ultimately obviously made a nice run at it. We heard stories behind the scenes about how Jonathan Quick has stepped up as a big-time leader for this team. And I remember specifically Game 2 against the Canes. That game went into overtime. Then it went into double overtime. And Jonathan Quick was there behind the scenes, telling these guys, don't give up. Keep going. Keep fighting. You're going to do it. You're going to win this thing. And that's awesome to hear. And hopefully he's doing as much leading as you can possibly do for this team behind the scenes. I feel like he almost won the award by default here. And again, it's not a knock on Quick, but who else do you give it to? I think the other three winners, if I'm remembering correctly, last year was Adam Fox. The year before that was Jacob Trouba. The year before that was Chris Kreider. And again, I don't see how you can give it to Kreider or Fox, and obviously Jacob Trouba is not here anymore. Yeah, I mean, there were precious few options for this award this year. But, I mean, really think about it. The leadership award goes to the backup goalie who has played in a grand total of 22 games this season, 22 out of possible 77 games. That tells you everything that you need to know. And one other thing that I'll throw out there, too, it's another basic no-show for this Ranger team this season that occurs on a themed night. I don't remember all the different themed nights and all the different results on all of them, but I do know they completely no-showed Women's Empowerment Night. They completely no-showed Garden of Dreams Night. That one is particularly disgraceful. And now they no-showed this. Rod Gilbert, one of the greatest Rangers of all time, Mr. Ranger, the guy that spent parts of 18 seasons here, never played for another team in the NHL, has these boatloads of New York Ranger records, and this is the effort that they put forward on a night like that. And I know that, these different theme nights, they don't necessarily cure everything that ails your team, but they should give you a little bit more jump, a little bit more juice, and they just don't. Not for this Ranger team. Not for the 2024-2025 Rangers, they don't. We'll call it there. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in, and I will see you next time.